this morning to be hosting the team from Sharecare. Very exciting business that I think really intersects with a lot of the key themes that we're all talking about across the sector today. With us from the company, we have Jeff Arnold, Chief Executive Officer, Justin Ferrero, Chief Financial Officer, and Sherwin Sheik, the Head of Home Health. I know the company has a presentation here prepared, so we'll hear from them first, and then we'll transition into a Q&A. Just to level set, we do have about 30 minutes scheduled for this conversation, so we'll be wrapping up